What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the last couple of years, we've been talking about THQ Nordic or Embracer Group acquiring studio after studio, and it looks like the other day they announced a couple more that they have acquired, and we're going to be going over those here today. Also, we're going to be talking about another leak that's hit the PlayStation. Seems like every single month, the games that are heading to PlayStation Plus leak out early. Looks like this time is no different, and we're also going to be going over an interesting release that has been confirmed for the Switch that to me brings up more questions. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Bravely Default 2. It did release earlier this year. I enjoyed the game, but I was curious if it would be able to surpass the 3DS version, the original Bravely Default, which did cross the 1 million mark. Well, we can see this over on Twitter, where they announced that, yes, Bravely Default 2 has officially passed 1 million units. They had the big thanks down there with the exclamation point and some pretty fun artwork to go along with it. And this is great news for the Bravely Default series overall. If we look at Bravely Default 2 versus the original, sure, it might end up passing it by a little bit, but you have to remember, this was a $60 release versus a $40 release on the 3DS. So most likely looking at that, they've made more revenue all the way around doing Bravely Default 2, and that makes me think that we could see Bravely Default 3 at some point in the future. At least to me, this would be considered enough of a success on Square Enix's side that they would look to do that. So here's hoping that maybe in a couple of years we have a pretty cool reveal for the next game in the series. Also, we do have the release for that Playdate handheld, the one with the crank, coming up here in a bit. It had to get delayed, of course, but we have been seeing more and more games get these little reveals and showcases online. Like, for example, we can see this one that was posted up by Giles Goddard over on Twitter saying, "Sneak peek of our super secret game for Playdate, might delete later." And I really like the look of this. I mean, it's a pretty cool isometric snowboarding game, and I'm curious how the crank will play into this. Maybe when you jump, it's how you spin or do backflips or something. Just, I'm sure a couple of ways they can incorporate it here. Kind of reminds me of the Game Boy Advance Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, and if you played those, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Sure, it was a scaled down version of what we had on the PS1 and Nintendo 64, but kind of had its own identity actually because of the viewpoint and the controls that they had set up. So yeah, I would like to see more of this title in particular, the snowboarding game, and look forward, of course, to more reveals for the Playdate, and hopefully I can eventually get it and we can check it out here on the channel. Oh, and just a heads up for any of you last minute shoppers who are trying to get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, it does appear that GameStop is going to be holding an in-store event for these platforms. Yesterday, we had some of these systems go in stock on different retailer websites, but as expected, they all sold out like immediately. This will at least give people a chance to pick them up in store, but it's specifically for Pro members, which it's like $15 a year, so if you really need to get one of these, technically, I guess you could sign up and then go stand in line and hope to get one. We can see this over on their website for the PS5 version. Join us December 23rd for an in-store PS5 bundle event just for pros. They have a little map where you can punch in your zip code and see if your local store is participating in this, and from what I could tell, many of these stores are. Actually, several around me are doing this. They do say bundles, which, yeah, means it's not going to be the $500 retail for like the PS5 disc unit and the Xbox Series X. They're going to pack stuff in. It's GameStop strategy to make more money, sell you an extra controller, a subscription card, and probably a game that you can't even technically choose. They just put whatever they want in there. However, it's probably better overall in terms of value compared to eBay, where it's just $1,000 plus for a PS5 or a Series X or something. So really, you buy the bundle, maybe you remove stuff and sell it, or just give it to the person for the holidays or Christmas or whatnot there. So just a heads up for anyone still looking for the systems, double check with your local GameStop, especially if you're seeing this before they open, and probably end up standing in line and just crossing your fingers. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with PlayStation Plus games that appear to have leaked out a bit early. And I saw this and I said, you know what? That would be a really good month for PlayStation Plus. And we see these leaks every single month from the same place, and they are dead on accurate every single time. So we're almost to the point where this basically confirms the games they'll be heading to the service in the next few weeks. We can see this here from D Labs, where they have Deep Rock Galactic. That's a game I have not played yet, so let me know if you have. And I mean, it's going to PlayStation Plus. Maybe I'll check it out there, but that's for PS5 and PS4. But take a look at this. Persona 5 Strikers on the PlayStation 4. That is a really good addition here for PlayStation Plus. And then we also have Dirt 5 on the PS5 and the PS4. But going back to Persona 5 Strikers, that was one that surprised me a bit to see it here already. I mean, it's not like a year old or anything, so to have that game there, it's really cool to see that, especially if you're someone who played Persona 5, maybe Royal Edition, and you saw Strikers, and you were, maybe I'll pick it up. To have that go into PlayStation Plus would be a nice surprise. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't really speak much on Deep Rock Galactic, so let me know if that's a good one, but Dirt 5 is also pretty good. It's a bit older now, just over a year old, since it came out right around the time that the Series X and the PS5 were releasing. But looking at this will be one of the better months for PlayStation Plus, I would say. And PlayStation Plus has been kind of touch and go. We had the whole Godfall thing that just happened. I was like, what kind of month is this? But then they turn around and potentially give us something like Persona 5 Strikers and even Dirt 5. That was pretty good. So let me know if any of these games interest you, especially if maybe Persona 5 Strikers is one you've been looking at and you're like, oh, cool, it's finally heading to PlayStation Plus and I can just claim it there. Also, I would look for Sony to confirm these next week. Typically, it's like a week before they go live on PlayStation Plus, usually the Tuesday, I think, before. These would clearly be set up to head to the service right at the beginning of January. So I guess keep your eyes open next week to see if this is correct, and most likely based on their track record, it will be. Next up, let's talk about THQ Nordic, also known as Embracer Group. We've been calling them THQ Nordic for the longest time because for several years, that was what they were called. Then they moved over to Embracer Group and they continue to acquire more and more studios and publishers. And if you take a look at their overall list of subsidiaries and those subsidiary studios and their studios, it's a massive list of all these developers and publishers combined. It's no wonder that we hear that they have like 150 games in development or something crazy. And like next year alone, they're gonna have 90 of them release. Yeah, you're gonna be seeing a lot from this large group of developers and publishers, and it looks like they continue to grow, which is expected at this point from them, since it seems like every other month we're hearing about more and more studios get picked up by Embracer Group. But we can head over to Gamatsu, where they say Embracer Group acquires Dark Horse, Digic, Perfect World Entertainment, Shiver Entertainment, and Spot Film Networks. I think the big acquisition here is Dark Horse. They did release like a press release and all of this that they put out there, going over each one individually, and they even talked about which subsidiary would be acquiring which one of like each one of these studios. So again, it's kind of confusing when you get into Embracer Group because there are so many different publishers and developers under them. But we can see here they say Embracer Group AB has today entered into an agreement to acquire Dark Horse Media, a leading entertainment company. Dark Horse owns or controls more than 300 intellectual properties, many of which are attractive for future transmedia exploitation, including the creation of new video games. Through the acquisition, Embracer strengthens its transmedia capabilities by adding expertise in content development, comics, publishing, and film and TV production. They also have Gearbox Entertainment, who will be acquiring Perfect World Entertainment. They have Co-Media acquiring Spot Film Networks. And then we have Saber Interactive acquiring Digic, which Digic's another one to keep an eye on here under Saber Interactive. Embracer adds a highly skilled team of close to 400 people through the acquisition, with a strong track record within commercial trailers and cinematics for best-selling game titles, as well as animations for streaming media. So that could play into some of Saber's bigger releases that they do here going forward. And we know Saber's been able to pull off some pretty impressive stuff. Think of like The Witcher 3 being ported to the Switch. And then with Shiver, say Shiver is a game development studio founded by industry veterans John Shepard and Jason Anderson. Through the acquisition, Saber Interactive adds a highly skilled team of nearly 20 people focusing on game development, co-development, and porting projects across platforms and genres. But as I said before, I think Dark Horse is going to be the big headlining acquisition that we see here that people will be talking about as we go along. Embracer Group, just in general, will most likely continue to grow as we head forward here, and the fact that they are planning so many releases coming up, I mean, we're gonna get to a point here pretty soon, I think, where Embracer Group is viewed next to like EA and Activision and Take-Two, just on their sheer volume of publishers, developers, and releases. So we'll see if they have some, hopefully, pretty big announcements to make here over the next year or so, because it seems like they are gearing up for quite the 2022. Next up, let's talk about an interesting release that has been officially confirmed for the Switch. That's .hack GU Last Recode. Now, it was already announced that this was happening, but it looks like a physical copy will also be released. Originally, I thought this might just be all digital because the game itself, in terms of file size on, I believe the PS4, it's like 34 or 35 gigabytes. I think on PC, it's 40 gigabytes. So, of course, we start hearing about those file sizes and see what other publishers have done, which is split up a good chunk of the game, put a little bit on the cartridge, make it download the rest, and we figured maybe Bandai won't even bother. But it looks like that's not the case, and they're going a different route, one that maybe we could see other publishers attempt to do. Take a look at this tweet. This is from Bandai Namco US saying, "The Begins edition is exclusively available for pre-order through the Bandai Namco Entertainment America store." Now, they do have a couple of extras in there, which includes the manga plus art booklet, a soundtrack, and the full boxed game. It sounds like the entire game will be on that cartridge. Now, this is a compilation of the different .hack GU games, and that's really why the file size became, I guess, larger than what people were even expecting when we were talking about PS2 titles. You package a bunch of them on there, you have some enhancements and all of this, and yeah, the file size will continue to balloon. Now, if we go over to the sales page for it, it's coming out March 11th, and the pre-order is currently set at $60 with maximum purchase of 2 units. Now, clearly they're expecting this to most likely sell out, and then, I mean, let's face it, it'll probably get flipped on eBay and other places because it's only available on this Bandai store. And that made me think, okay, would other publishers consider doing that for games that maybe they're trying to weigh out, is it worth putting everything on a 16 or a 32 gigabyte cartridge? Because even that 16 gigabyte cartridge seems to be a struggle for some of these publishers. Even like we see Take-Two and Rockstar apparently have that big blue banner on their Grand Theft Auto Trilogy release in stores, which got delayed, so who knows, maybe it'll resurface without it. This does not appear to have that, though, at least on the box art that they are showing in the advertisement. I would hate to pre-order, by the way, and then it shows up later on after it's already been confirmed and shipped out to you. That would be pretty frustrating, actually, and might be an issue with false advertisement from what they're showing so far. But the idea of different companies saying, hey, if you really want it physically on a cartridge and everything there, well, we'll put it up on our storefront, you pre-order, we'll figure out how many people want it, and we'll just ship those ones out. I actually don't mind that. I think that's a pretty good idea, at least a bit of a compromise and a way to meet in the middle, because yeah, I would like to get .hack GU Last Recode all on a single cartridge and not have to worry about downloading any of the extra games that, like, they put one game on there, you got to download the rest. So let me know what you think about this idea here. I do believe it's going to be flipped online because there's going to be limited quantities available and it won't ever show up, at least for now, from what we're seeing in stores like Target, Best Buy, Walmart, GameStop, anything like that. But at least there'd be a way to get it physically without them having to resort to, well, we're going to save as much money as possible on this entire project and we'll ship like a 1 gigabyte cartridge and you got to download the other 28 gigabytes or something. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a couple of sales that are now live. We have the holiday sale for Sony with their PlayStation and Steam's holiday sale, both of which are live. Now, PlayStation sale will be running until the second week of January, with some games disappearing, according to PlayStation blog, January 4th. However, basically through the rest of December, you'll have a shot at some of these discounts that they have set up. And we can quickly go through a few of them here over on the PlayStation Store. And we have Far Cry 6 there at $36. I also noticed that Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, is already marked down 20% to $48. They're still kind of messed up, so, I mean, you might be able to find it even cheaper later on. And this is a case where if you were thinking about getting physically, might as well wait for those to release because maybe by then they'll be fixed through different patches. Kena is marked down to $30. It Takes Two, which is the game of the year for 2021, down to $20. Deathloop marked in half there to $30. We have Ratchet and Clank coming in at just under $50. Assassin's Creed Valhalla at $24. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut on the PS5 under $50 there. Call of Duty Vanguard at $39. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition down to $10. Tales of Arise down to $42. Resident Evil Village is down to $30. And then we have Borderlands 3 down to $15 and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 down to $20. Just wanted to point these out, especially if you're getting a digital PS5, you're kind of stuck to this store. I know we just went over like GameFly where they had some pretty good discounts on physical copies, but that's kind of the way it is. If you get that digital PS5, you're going to basically be locked in to this PlayStation Store. And of course, not to be outdone, the Steam holiday sale that loves to blow up everyone's backlog is live, and we can see some of that here. They have like their main big sales with like Dark Souls 3 down to $15, Days Gone down to $30, Hades at $16.24, even Tetris Effect, which is connected, which is an awesome game, down to $26, Neo 2 at $35, Jedi Fallen Order at $14.79. But the ones that I really like to go through are like the franchises that are on sale. Like Wolfenstein franchise is up to 83% off. They have the Fallout franchise up to 75% off. But then you get like the Naruto franchise at 90% off. They have the Half-Life franchise, which does include Half-Life Alyx, by the way, for anyone getting a VR headset this holiday. That went 88% off for that franchise. Yakuza series, that's up to 75% off. A lot of the Dead Space games are at absolute steals right now, with like Dead Space 2 at $2. Even the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is down to $30, and the Halo franchise is marked down pretty well with the entire franchise with 75% off. The Master Chief Collection, which has a ton of Halo games packed in, at $20. So obviously a lot of good deals there on Steam and on PlayStation to blow up the backlog a bit more. Or if you're someone who's getting a PlayStation for the first time, or you're building or getting your first pre-built PC, certainly a lot there to start building up your library from the ground up. But of course, leave some suggestions down below in the comments. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday where I asked, which gaming handheld generation did you start with? Hey, 50% of you started with the Game Boy and the Game Gear. That's same with me. What a great generation that was, because, I mean, that's when Pokemon first came around. And if you think Pokemon is hot now, whew, it was something else. It was a phenomenon back then in the late 90s, the early 2000s. Game Boy Advance at 23%, and then the DS and the PSP at 20%. Starts to fall off from there with the Vita and the 3DS at 4%, and then the Switch at 3%. But I mean, that was like, to me still, the golden era of handheld gaming was back in the day with even the Game Boy Advance. Just so many creative titles coming out then. Yeah, I know it was mostly like side-scrolling or isometric titles and games, and it wasn't until we got to like technically the DS and the PSP that we started to get like the console experience on the go. But I don't know, something about that time period was just really special. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Silver saying Yuji Naka hasn't been the same since leaving Sonic Team. It's really a shame, especially considering how badly Balan turned out. Yeah, unfortunately the way that Balan Wonderworld turned out wasn't the best for Yuji Naka or Square, but I gotta give it to Yuji Naka. Rather than just leaving and going away and giving up on games, looks like he's continued to create. We can see this tweet here saying, I created a hyper-casual game called Shot 2048. This is the first time in my 37 years as a game creator that I, Yuji Naka, have made a game all by myself. I would appreciate it if you could play it and spread the word. Thank you very much. So, hey, good for him. It's a pretty casual, small game for phones, rolling dice and all of that. But it's still good to see that he didn't just give up on his passion for games. Instead, he said, you know what, I'm gonna go and try to create something a bit simpler from the ground up. Who knows, maybe he can pull himself back up and take another shot and create something that's not Bao and Wonderworld. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's Bandai's strategy when it comes to .hack GU Recode on the Switch. You like the idea of them still doing a physical copy, but keeping it to the Bandai store? Let me know about that. And then also, what about Embracer Group continuing to acquire studio after studio, and then PlayStation Plus for the month of January? What do you think about Persona 5 Strikers being in there? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.